G'day guys, welcome to Rockin all over the Burbs on the Jumper Punch channel. We've got the specialists of guests here for this week, and it makes sense as well given it's Carlton versus Hawthorn at the MCG. Crunch clash, huge game. Now, he threw a few jumper punches in his time, and I think it's quite ironic that we've got him on this very channel. Campbell Brown, premiership player for the Hawks, one of the great storytellers as well.
Great to be here.
Work colleague here at SEN and SEN Track. Brown Dog, hello mate.
Thanks for having me on.
No, thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving up
your
time.
My problem. Maybe I needed a bit more jumper than punch. I might have got off a few of those suspensions, but all good.
No. It's great to have you on. And before we'll get stuck into the Blues and Hawks game and how the season has gone for both clubs. But we'll start a bit about yourself, actually. Your footy story. You're a young buck coming through the Oakley footy system, and your old man a player as well. And how did your footy story sort of start?
I grew up in a footy family, obviously, and just loved the sport. So I was one of those kids that if you ask me as a 9 or 10-year-old what you want to be when you grow up, and some people say police officers or firefighters.
Yes.
I always said I wanted to play AFL footy.
Love that.
And it was a good enough junior, like sort of 11s, 12s, 13s. But then when you get to that age of maturity, 14, 15, 16, I was always a late maturer. I was pretty small and a bit scrawny.
Robust, we'll say. Robust.
I all of a sudden, a lot of players just went past me. I got cut from a lot of those junior teams.
Yeah.
The Oakley Chargers, under 15s team didn't make it. Under 16 state squad got cut.
Yeah.
So they teach you lessons. You try and improve and work on the deficiencies in your game. And lucky enough to be given a chance by the Hawks.
Yep.
In the 2001 Super Draft, which what a draft that was. And then once you get into the system, you just got to try and make a position your own and work on some of your strengths. And I got drafted as a run with midfielder and never spent 1 second of my career in the midfield because I couldn't bloody run.
Does it help?
So
but they found a spot for you, mate. You found a spot for yourself.
Forward pocket, half back flank. You just got to adapt. But I loved it.
Absolutely. Who was your first coach? Was it Peter Schwab?
Yep.
Okay. Now, obviously, you said you had a few little hard knocks coming through the junior ranks. What was his message to you when you first came onto the Hawthorn list?
Well, a lot of young guys like. When I got drafted, I was a million miles off playing AFL footy, or I felt at least. I always had confidence in my ability, but it's just about working hard, I suppose, and identifying what your strengths and weaknesses are as a player, and then honing in on those. Don't forget what your strengths are, because they're the most important. They got you there. But mine was never with ball in hand, let's call it. I wasn't the most composed footballer. In fact, it got to a point where Clarko flat out said to me, "We don't want you kicking the ball." Got Burgoyne, Hodge, Birchall, Ladson, give him the ball.
Hey, the great Dirty Harry did say a man's got to know his limitations.
Yeah, that's right. So, mine was winning one-on-ones, tackling, spoiling, pressure, the defensive side of the game, which I loved. So you just got to hone in on that. And Schwabby was fantastic, gave me my first opportunity. And then once you start to feel at home at AFL level after 20, 30, 40 games and you're getting picked every week and you've got a spot, that's when you can really improve. And probably did that for 3 or 4 years under Clark.
What about in the background? Obviously, great players. They all have a great support network, not just at the club, but what about family and friends? What was that like growing up as a young footballer? How did that help you?
Yeah, my old man and my mother, great supporters. My old man used to give me advice. I remember him saying to me one day, "Don't get angry, get even." So I probably...
I think you've taken that literally and metaphorically, mate.
29 weeks suspension. I probably grew up without a great deal of respect for authority, authority being umpires and MROs. But of the 205 games I played, I think my old man came to 201 of them and my mother came to 203 or something like that. So they were there every week, right up until my last game. He would sit there quite composed and calm, but he'd have a pen and paper, he'd write notes.
About your performance?
Well, about he'd fumbled. You look slow off the mark. You needed a training that week. Do some work on, whatever it is that he thought I needed to work on. So it's good because it meant you never got comfortable and rested on your laurels.
Of course.
You continually, internally getting driven, but
he
was a coach and a great player, so I used to respect his opinion about how I played.
I think that's what a great father does. Pushes his son on, and it's reaped its rewards. Now, Carlton, and I know this is a Carlton channel, it's not all about the Blues though, but both clubs had disappointing close losses over the weekend. So both scenarios were different. Hawthorn were in front all day. Obviously lost momentum in the last quarter. Giants run over the top of them. Carlton down all day, finished like Chautauqua, but weren't able to get there on the line. And it was a final after the siren kick, which didn't go through. And it begs the question, right? Each club always has a poignant moment in time where enough is enough, right? And for your boys, you played in that line in the sand game. Was that the moment that, and obviously Dermot Brereton was big on this with Hawthorn, was that the moment that it all changed at Hawthorn for you, do you think?
A little bit. We'd been walked over and bullied, and we were a skillful side, but we probably lacked a little bit of a hard edge about us. So that was a significant game and moment where we tried to stand up and make our presence felt a little bit. But then you've got to go on with it with actions over a long period of time. And I think the sides that are flaky in that area or inconsistent are the most frustrating. Because really, if you want to be a very, very good AFL consistent side and put yourself in winning positions, make finals, win finals and go on and have success, you've got to be unwavering, uncompromising in that part of your game. But then you need the personnel and the cattle to be able to back it up.
100%.
And we were lucky enough at Hawthorn that we had a group of guys, and I don't know if it was what recruiters were looking for, or it was a bit of luck or whatever. But we had guys like Michael Osborne and Chance Bateman, Jordan Lewis, Luke Hodge, myself, like a group of guys that really enjoyed the physical side of the game. Sam Mitchell, it came naturally to us. So you don't have to try and manufacture it or pretend.
Was that a competitive edge you think your mob had over others?
Yeah, definitely. As well as having the right structure and game plan, and it helps when you got Buddy and Ruffy up forward and Cyril and that. But ultimately, it's such an even competition week in, week out, that any side can win, and it's the side that's prepared to go harder for longer. And we always talk about contested possessions and clearances and all that sort of stuff. Ball movement's important, but you've got to win the ball first before your ball movement gets going.
Exactly.
And week to week, year to year, you see sides do it well for a period of time, and then for whatever reason they don't. Essendon started this year playing really tough football.
Correct.
The Essendon way. That's gone now. So I think, it's I'm not a coach, never have pretended to be, but if I was to be a senior coach, I would make sure that the willingness to compete outweighs ability sometimes.
Yeah, of course,
You can put a great player, a superstar, on a guy that just is dogged and wants to compete and tackle and has that hunger, and he'll beat them all the time.
I think a lot of the big managers always say that hard work and grit and determination will always outweigh the player who's uber talented but doesn't quite want it.
Correct.
From your perspective, when you went through the league, how much was mindset a factor in the way you played and the way Hawthorn went about its success? Because I think it's been a frailty of Carlton over the last couple of seasons, that mindset in those crunch games, to be able to be daring for long enough, to be able to take that risky kick rather than go long up the line. Is the mindset something that you factored in during your career? Yeah,
you do. I mean, you as soon as you start doubting yourself or your teammates, or are we going to lose this game, that's when you go into your shell a little bit. So confidence is really important, and it can get sapped from you quite quickly in this industry, because there's articles being written, there's talkback radio, everyone's got an opinion. If you play a really bad game on the big stage,
how do you deal with all that? Because now, you look at it these days, right, and social media it's everywhere, right? And no, us as humans, we've never lived in a time like this where every move and every play is scrutinised to the up 10th degree. How did you deal with all that media scrutiny when it came on?
Easily, because, and I'll say this because my role each week as the footballer was to negate a very good player. I never got heaps of dream team or super coach points. I was never going to get Brownlow votes. I was never going to get 25 disposals that I needed to run and carry and create and use it, right? My game was very simplified by Clarko. Yep. Win your one-on-ones, compete in the air, bring it to ground, tackle, spoil. And if I got 10 or 12 touches and kept Eddie Betts goalless, sort of one goal, and we won, that was a great game for me, right? So I feel a bit sorry for the guys, like Cripper and Walshy and Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay, because the game is literally on their boot, right? They need to play well every single week, hit the scoreboard, win the clearances, run, and to be at that level, you get paid well, and you have a higher profile, and everything is great, but it also comes with enormous expectation. It does, and so I dealt with it fine, because I knew if I just played my role, it was an important role for the team, but it wasn't usually the difference between us winning and losing. So you never cop the wrath of supporters or the media, because you just it wasn't a style of position or player that was going to be up in lights, or if anything, you get the pats on the back because you did keep your Paul Medhurst or your Jeff Farmers or whoever. People would expect them to kick 3 or 4. When you kept them to 1 or 2 and you won, everyone would say, what a great game you played.
It helps when the team performs as well, doesn't it?
Correct. It's a funny one, and I would have hated to be at the level of a Hodge, Mitchell, Franklin, right, where there's, they're captains and they've got, big footy clubs, big supporter bases, high profiles.
Almost at their necks every week.
With
every single player.
Yeah, and we won the flag in 08, and then in 09 we missed the finals.
Yep.
And it was like the world was caving in at Hawthorn, you know what I mean? And then in 2010 we started the year 1 and 6. So that's a significant fall from grace.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And that's when the pressure got really ramped up, and you start questioning everything.
Yeah, exactly right. So from a Blues perspective as well, and people now are getting up in arms over the loss to Collingwood, and understandable, right? It's an emotional game. You don't want to lose to your arch rival in a scenario like that, given the way the season has panned out. Is there something missing from the Blues? You played in a premiership. Your mob had that hard, physical, competitive edge with Clarko at the helm and Hodgie and Mitchell and yourself. Do you find that they're maybe just missing that? It seems as though they, and this is just my perspective, I might be completely wrong, but I look at Patrick Cripps and I think Warrior, Animal, Bull. But then I look at the others and I just think, I look at Harry Mackay and I look at Charlie Curnow, and you haven't got that, I don't want to use the word, but that see you next Tuesday.
I think
that elbow in the side. Maybe it's a different generation, I don't know, but I still think that has a place, especially at Carlton, and I think they're just missing that. I don't know what you think about that.
I think they've got all the attributes to be a premiership side. I love the fact that Carlton have had stability now for a little while.
Yeah, there's a great nucleus
across the board, not just on the field, but in coach and president. Because fractured clubs are difficult to navigate,
of course.
But with guys like Wiedering and Curnow, Mackay, Walsh, Cripps, Blake Acres had a fantastic year.
Tom De Koning has stepped up as well.
And then your role players around that, Motlop and, Boyd is a guy I really like.
He's a goer, isn't he? He's a goer.
Newman. Yeah. So I think you've got the nucleus there, and then it's just about executing, against the better sides. So because nothing happens by accident or fluke.
No, of course.
But you would have gone into Saturday night's game thinking you'd get more than one goal out of Mackay and Curnow.
That was a big letdown,
and you got one,
wasn't it? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You get 2 or 3 or 4 out of them, you win the game of footy.
If they kick their average,
so
it's a different ball
you
game.
Lose and you're upset and you're disappointed. It's a big game, but you're not far away. If that makes sense.
Exactly right. I tell you, a team that's not far away is your old boys, the Hawks. Now, Sammy Mitchell, of course, the next teammate of yours.
They've surprised me, the
Hawks. Champion of the club.
He is.
0-5. Few people knocking on the door.
Yeah, there were.
I love him. I think tactically he's amazing.
Yep.
And I love the way he manages press conferences, and he was not happy with the result against GWS. The first question was asked of him about whether he was proud or not, and he just laughed it off. He said, now's not the time for it. Have you seen Hawthorn's development during the year, and is he going to be, I don't want to say is he going to be the next man to take them all the way, but it seems as though it's on the the right track. How have you seen their year today?
They've been unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hard to turn a season around from 0-5, and they were humiliated up on the Gold Coast for their 5th loss of the season. It's as bad a performance as I've nearly ever seen them play. So he kept it light, he kept the faith, he dropped players, but he's hard when he needs to be, Sammy Mitchell. And the thing with him is, and I think he got this from Jeff Kennett and Clarko and those sort of guys, is they don't accept honourable losses.
No,
he would be proud that they pushed a really good side in Canberra, but it was a loss. So ultimately they didn't achieve what he demands and what they should have won. So he'll be upset that, you know, they were so close to nearly locking in a final spot and letting it slip again like they did against Port Adelaide. But I think he's been the coach of the year. I think to have Hawthorn where they are now and as competitive as they are, I think they've recruited really well. I think they've traded unbelievably well. Like D'Ambrosio's come in.
He's been phenomenal.
And, you know,
maybe your Chol played a great
Ginnivan, role. You know, even the last couple of years, Carl Amon,
Impey as well.
Jarman Impey.
Newcomb's done a great role in the midfield.
So
as well.
he knows how he wants them to play. He knows what he wants in terms of ball movement and structure and game plan, and they're very well coached. So they knew exactly how they needed to beat the Giants, and they executed it for 3 and a bit quarters.
Yeah, then
and just couldn't quite get it done. But it's a 4-quarter effort.
I think that's going to be the case though with an inexperienced squad. They haven't played a lot together this mob. You see, and people are saying that given the talent on the list with Hawthorn, that Sam Mitchell is maybe, because of him and because of the way he's got them playing, that they are overachieving with regards. So. I mean, you look at draft picks in the way that they've drafted over the last few seasons. They've got some talented players in there, but they haven't been. It's not number one pick after number one pick after number one pick. So a lot of the credit has to be given to Sam. Yeah,
and the recruiters, because you need to nail your draft numbers, right? And because they haven't had a lot of first rounds, they needed to make sure that they got them absolutely right. And I think Weddle going to be a superstar, right? Sheesh. Connor McDonald, he was a late pick, right? But he's hardly missed a game, and he kicked 4 a couple of weeks ago, and really good player. To have the courage to pick a 170 centimetre forward pocket with your first pick, right? It's pretty bold.
Yeah.
Like, he's stepped in and he's been fantastic, and you know, you can see he's going to be a great player for a long time. So yeah, I feel like they're on a really quick trajectory.
They are. Now they've got to manage expectation and reality, don't they?
Because next year we'll all expect them to play finals, and if they don't, you know, then you start to get when you've got no expectation as a footy club,
no pressure.
It's easy, of course, because every win is a bonus, and every good performance is a bonus. So, Carlton in a window now of heightened expectation.
That's exactly right.
And so, you know, if you'd have lost by a point or a couple of points to the Pies only 3 years ago, you would have all walked away pretty happy, right?
Fair enough.
Now you're ropeable.
Yeah, exactly. The expectation set the standard too. 2 more things before we wrap up. We know time is of the essence. Speaking of that expectation, right, so I had this big question mark on Carlton as a group coming into the season with regards to, now you have expectation on you based off a good season. How do you deal with that? Was that ever a scenario for you playing football where, you know, you're expected to do well because all fans want you to win? You start winning, and now the expectation is on you after you've started winning. How did you deal with that, and how do you think Carlton have dealt with that? Because they were second, had that gap of 6 points. Everybody expected them to have a home qualifying final. It's the first time it's ever happened for that group and squad. And no one knew how they were going to deal with it. So were there scenarios in your career as well, and as a club at Hawthorn, where that occurred? How did you all deal with that? Yeah, it's very much, and it sounds very boring, you know, but you can't look too far ahead. You can't start it's so true.
Counting your chickens, because in this competition at the moment, there's literally, I'll say 17 sides that could knock you over, because I think Richmond are, you know, they are the worst side of the comp by a mile, and that's not being disrespectful. But if you come up against West Coast Eagles or North, right, or Gold Coast, whoever, and you aren't playing your best football,
you get punched in the face.
You can lose, right? Which then can have significant ramifications on your season. So you've got to just bring that absolute, like, win at all costs, fight to the death mentality every single week, every quarter, and every contest. And look, that's how I used to approach the game. That has to be unwavering.
Yeah, you microscope it down to those little moments, and you get those little moments right, and then it compounds.
Because when you're a professional athlete, and all kids grow up about wanting to play for footy, but they dream about winning a flag, right? You've only got 5 to 12 years of your career, of your whole life, to achieve it, right? So every year that you go by and you didn't win one or you didn't make the finals is a wasted season, and you're 1 year closer to the end of your career. So I don't know. I just used to have I remember John Kennedy. He always said, "Young man, turn the pages of your glorious youth," right? He used to say, and all these great quotes that would inspire you, and it really is true. Like, you've only got a short period of time to try and achieve something great, so you want to put everything into it. And it doesn't mean you can't have a few beers and have a bit of fun at the right time.
Yeah, of course.
But eat well,
whatever works.
Train well, sleep well, and certainly you're doing all that to play well. So when you get out there on the footy field, my mindset will be, I'll be fucked if this person here, who I'm playing on today, I don't know if you're allowed to swear on podcasts.
Of course you can, mate. Of course you can.
I looked at it like, this person's trying to take away my dream, what I want, right?
Of course.
And I'm not going to let him do that. So I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to be like a man possessed. And if you're going to beat me, you're going to have to earn it, and you have to do it again and again and again based on talent, because my effort is going to be through the roof. And if every player brings that mindset, you're not going to lose too many games of footy.
It's intrinsic motivation. All right, final thing. Blues v Hawks this weekend, Sunday at the MCG.
Hawks going favourites.
10 past 1. Well, it's about $1.90 each at 2. Yeah, check the betting. It's a flip of the coin.
I think on current form,
agree.
Hawks are the favoured side.
I would say so too.
But Jesse Hogan kicked 5 on the weekend, or was it 6? 5 or 6?
I think he kicked 5. He kicked the bag.
He kicked the bag. They had no answers for a key forward that was in form, and you've got 2 of them now. They mightn't be in as great a form as Hogan, but they can be, right?
Can't keep them down for too long.
I think that's how. I think you'll be good around the ball. You always are. Your defence is pretty rock solid. So if you can expose Hawthorn's defenders one-on-one, that's how you can get your competitive advantage.
I think so as well. You got a prediction?
I'm gonna.
Don't worry, it won't be clipped up, and we're not going to make anyone look stupid.
I'm tipping the Hawks. By 10 points. Okay. I think it'll be a really close game, but I'm leaning towards Hawthorn. They've won 9 of their last 11, and the only 2 losses they've had against Port Adelaide in that unlosable game.
Crazy, isn't it? Right? And the Giants.
And the Giants. Yeah. So, they could have quite easily be 11 from 11 and as good a form as any in the comp.
Okay. I'm going to go. I love the symbolism in football. I'm going Carlton by 3 points. And Mitch McGovern to take the match-winning mark.
There you go. Yeah. Easy to take the match-winning mark and kick the match-winning goal.
Because that's what he's good at. Brown Dog, thank you very much for joining us.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Go Blues. He'll be saying go Hawks this weekend. Like, subscribe. What's your podcast? Give it a shout out.
Brownie's podcast. Yeah, if you want to have a laugh with John O'Brien and I, we do 2 every week, one on a Monday and one on a Friday. It's good fun.
You'll hear us on SEN Track as well. See you guys. Beauty.
Pleasure, brother.
Superstar.
Good stuff.